We've talked a lot about the lies of the Obama administration recently with Libya, but when you look at the campaign, when you talk about these cost issues, maybe it's better to just call them obvious falsehoods, but things like referring to tax cuts costing money, I mean, that gives you a very deep and honest sense of what his view of this is. It's how much the government allows you to have. Your money isn't yours. The government is giving you something. It's like an allowance from Uncle Sam. He keeps using this rhetoric. He's not called out on it. And then they also say things in their projections and in these robocalls and in all these ads about how he's going to raise taxes on the middle class. And they even give a figure, $2,000. What that is just they're just making this up as they go along. Well, they're saying that because they're not raising taxes, they're assuming the middle class will have to have their taxes raised, and therefore, but Romney's not even saying that. But no one will point this out.
There's good news. I have good news. The good news is, if you read Playbook, as I do, there was a story today about a new direction that the Romney campaign is taking, which is to point out these fallacies. In fact, they were sort of perseverating over how they were going to call them lies without calling them lies, because it's not very presidential to call someone a liar.
Falsehoods, yeah.
Right. So they're going to be taking this tack through their surrogates and also in the debates. So I'm hoping, like you're hoping, and we're all hoping, that Romney is going to start highlighting a lot of these falsehoods, both economic, foreign policy, and
Mitt Romney got the nomination by being willing to take the wood to every single one of his opponents where he caught them on something, whether it was a lie, whether it was a falsehood, whether it was something in their past. I'm still waiting for him to do that for this president who's gotten away for so long.
I thought you thought he got it by default because none of the other guys were good enough.
That happened too.
But I do have a question on the substance of the issue of deficits, that Mitt Romney is saying that we could reduce deficits by these tax cuts that would actually generate revenue because the economy is growing, and also government spending cuts. But of course, in Washington, D.C., the smart people, the gray hairs, the people at Brookings Institute and the Simpson-Bowles Commission say that if you're going to tackle the deficit, the responsible thing and the only politically viable thing to do is to cut taxes, but also to, well, rather raise taxes and cut spending. Is that...
Erskine Bowles came out and said in 2010, when he was on the Bipartisan Debt Commission, you got to make really big cuts in income support programs to take care of the disadvantaged.
But they also say you have to raise taxes.
Taxes, but let's talk about those cuts for one moment, because what he's basically saying is, on the Obama plan, they're not going to cut. The disadvantage, which just, that blows my mind. I get so heated when I read this. Disadvantage, because they're out of a job or on food stamps, doesn't mean they're disadvantaged. They're going through a very tough time right now. They call them disadvantaged. The Obama administration wants a plan that they continue to rely on the government.
But realistically speaking, could Mitt Romney, if he were to become president, both cut taxes and government spending, because there are still Democrats in the Senate and there are still Democrats in the House?
Well, no, it's not going to happen if they have control. No, it's never going to happen. I mean, but that's what he wants to do. And if he does it, it will work. The private sector has brought us out of every recession that we've ever had. Entrepreneurs, we do not see that anymore. We see Obama's plan for big government, and they will support you. Support you, yes, until when? Until we run out of money.
I think that Romney is vulnerable on this issue, though, of exemptions, thinking that he's going to be able to get away with, with getting rid of exemptions and loopholes, and that's going to make up the difference. As we all know, the exemptions that you would have to deal with, the real money, are politically popular, the same way that the entitlements, the same way that entitlements, which are important to both sides, and now the Republicans are running as the defenders of Medicare, which is an amazing switch. I don't think Romney can say, yeah, the mortgage interest tax deduction, charitable deductions, we're going to get rid of those without paying a very big price.
He's got to come up with trillions of dollars.
Let's go back, though, to one of the things that Obama said in that ad. He talked about the trillion in spending we've already cut. Well, what is he talking about there? What he's talking about from his perspective is stuff like Obamacare, which he viewed as being a benefit to the deficit thanks to the way that they strung that up in terms of
the accounting, and that's been a joke the whole time.
Exactly. But here's the thing that we have to keep in mind. Even block granting just a portion of Medicaid to the states would result in much greater savings, and CBO has already scored this. They've already done it without funny numbers, than everything added up, even with the most generous assumptions about what Obamacare would save. I think we underestimate how much savings there actually is.
Do you think the private equity guy here actually could find the savings here and there if he had a compliant Congress to get this done?
I think with a compliant Congress, you could actually find more savings than you actually think.
But Ben, do you think that you could reduce the deficit merely by cutting taxes and cutting spending?
I think it really comes down think it really comes down to the kind of economic growth that we're going to see. And I actually think that that has more to do with the regulatory side of things than it does with the tax.
And the other side of it is the tax side of this argument also. You could take every single dollar, and this is, I wish the Romney campaign would hammer this point. You could take every single dollar made by the 1%. It would fund government for 2 months, maybe 3. Yeah. Every dollar, not a percentage, everything they make. It's not about taxes, it's about spending.
About spending, it's about growth. I agree with you, Ben. We need to grow, because if we're bringing in more money, we could spend a little more. It's like when you get a raise. When you get a raise, you can spend a little more, right?